So isang magandang umaga sa inyong lahat mga kaibigan. So meron naman po tayong bagong pag-uusapan. So ito po yung local government taxation in the Philippines. So ang ginamit ko po dito na slide presentation po ay yung kay Mr. Johny Natad. Okay. So maraming salamat po. So last time napag-usapan natin yung tungkol sa local legislation and then yung recall. At the same time, yung local initiative and local referendum. So, ngayong umaga, so ito naman yung bigyan natin ng diin. Ngayon, ang discussion po natin ay mag-draw lang po dito sa definition and rationale of taxation, yung history of taxation, and of course, yung taxation po natin dito sa Pilipinas na kung saan pag-uusapan din natin yung national law, local government law with it comes to local government taxation and then yung tax exemptions natin. And then, of course, we will have later on the summary tax guide on the Philippine taxation. So atin pong simulan. So, pag sinasabi po nating taxation, so ito po ay pag-impose ng tinatawag nating mandatory na paniningil po sa ating mga citizens o sa lahat ng mga businesses sa ating pong bansa by our government. Okay? So, in almost every country, sabi dito, the government derives a majority of its revenues for financing public services from taxation. So, ito po yung tinatawag nating fuel. Ito po yung buhay ng government po natin. So, kung wala po yung taxation, activities, so automatically, mamamatay po siya. It's because wala po siyang gagamitin pondo. So, yung revenue doon, so yun po yung pinagamit po natin sa pagtustos ng mga gastusin ng ating gobyerno. So yun po yung tinatawag po nating government expenditures. So most individuals will feel the impact of quite a number of taxes during their lifetimes. Of course, napakarami talaga. So simulat sa pool na buhay kayo, especially nung naipasa na yung ating tinatawag na VAT at saka EVAT during the time of Gloria Macapagal Arroyo through the proposed bill by Senator Ralph Recto. So kahit kayo ay bumibili lang ng mga tinatawag nating commodities na kailangan ninyo, so kayo na rin ay nagbabayad ng tax. Unlike noon kasi, ang tax ay pinapataw lamang doon sa mga producers natin. So hindi pa yan siya naipasa sa consumers. So ngayon, iba na. So even consumer ka lang ngayon, pag bumili ka ng something, so may karampatang tax na rin po yun. So that's why lahat tayo nagbabayad ng tax. Even though sometimes indirect po ang pagbabayad natin, okay, or direct. Okay. So in addition, taxes have become a powerful instrument for policymakers around the world to use in attaining economic and social goals. So yan talaga yung isa sa mga inherent powers of the state, especially sa democratic countries. So meron po tayo dito sa Pilipinas, meron po tayong tatlong inherent powers of the state. So namely, yung police power, taxation power, at saka yung power of eminent domain. So I hope you can still recall yung tatlo na yon. Okay. Now, we have also here another term, and this is what we call charges or charge. So ito po ay tumutukoy to pecuniary liability as rents or fees against persons or property. So pag kayo po ay nagkakaroon ng tinatawag natin mga businesses, okay, o kaya activities or trade activities, so may karampatan po yung bayad. Okay. So, say for example, sa properties po natin ngayon, meron tayong 1% dyan na pinapataw. Okay. Sa property tax po natin. Yung 1% pala napupunta sa education natin. That's what I mean. Okay. So, yung 1% out of the property tax, so yung 1% po doon, napupunta po yan sa education. So, according po yan sa batas natin. Okay, and mayroon din tayong term dito na fee. Okay, so it means a charge fixed by law or ordinance for the regulation or inspection of a business or activity. So mga franchise, yan yung mga permits. Okay, so, depende po kung anong klaseng activity yan o business endeavors ang kinakasangkutan natin. Okay, ayan. So of course, aside from the first purpose, kaya na naman siya na natin kanina. So ang main purpose talaga ng taxation ay ito. So taxation is present in all states for them to what? To accumulate funds from the functioning of the government machineries. So kasi marami tayong departments po dito, and through these departments, we are able to accept or enjoy the different social services. Okay? So yan po yung pinaka-essence talaga ng taxation natin. So ulitin ko lang, this serves as a fuel, okay, of the government or the life actually of the government. Okay? So kung wala po ito, so wala din pong may paparating na serbisyo mula po sa gobyerno natin. So no government in the world can run its administrative office without funds. Correct. Okay, tama po yan. And it has no such system incorporated in itself to generate profit from its functioning. Kasi po, pag sinasabi po natin gobyerno, hindi naman po yung mga officials natin ang kikita dyan. Okay? Nagsisweldo lang sila, pero yung kinikita po ng ating uh, gobyerno through the GOCCs na tinatawag, okay, Government-Owned Control Corporations po natin. So, isa din yan actually sa tumutulong para makapag-generate po yung government natin ng income. Okay? Ang government din natin, napapautang din siya para makagenerate din siya ng income. Pero yung taxation kasi, nakadwell lang talaga doon talaga sa mga taxable persons and properties and commodities of course. Okay? So, yan ang katuwang actually ng ating government, yung kanyang GOCCs. Okay? Aside from the tax derived from persons, property, and activities. Okay? So, dito, na-mention din dito ni Mr. Natad ang 4 hours of the taxation. Okay? Ang sabi niya, meron tayong revenue, meron tayong redistribution, repricing, and the representation. So I hope nakakasunod po tayo ha. And dito po sa una, itong revenue, so ito po ay taxes. Okay, raise money to spend on roads, schools, and hospitals, and on more indirect government functions like market regulation and justice system po natin. So this is most widely known function. So yan talaga yung pinaka when it comes to taxation. Revenue. Maka-accumulate ka ng pondo out of this. Okay? So para may magamit ka para sa iyong mga projects, activities, programs. Okay? And of course, for the holistic approach of it, so yung holistic development, ika nga. Okay? So hindi lang sa isang sektor dapat nakatuon. So dapat ang government natin nakatuon po sa halos lahat ng sektor. So dapat po lang maiwan. Okay? Para holistic yung approach na mayroon tayo in terms of development. Okay? Kasi minsan sa ibang bansa, ito lang yung priority nila and they're not giving actually priority to this sector, to these aspects. Okay? So, just like what happened in North Korea, di ba? Sa panahon ni Kim Jong-un, di ba? So, 10 years sila nag-suffer. Okay? Nagkaroon sila ng tinatawag nating famine doon. Okay? Dahil ang priority ng North Korea, North Korean governments ay yung kanyang military advancement. Okay, nagkaroon siya ng mga missiles. Okay, nag-develop sila ng mga nuclear weapons doon, and then ipinarala pa nga yan, di ba? Pero at the expense of that, yung tao naman ang kawawa. Okay? So ayan. Buti na lang andyan yung Russia at saka China. Okay? Now, dito sa atin, of course, pinagbabawal po yun. Kasi nasa batas natin na bawal tayong mag-create, mag-store ng mga nuclear weapons o kaya mag-develop. Okay? So, bawal po yan. And letter B, we have this redistribution. So, normally, this means transferring wealth from the richer sections of society to poorer sections. And this is true also. Kasi hindi naman tayo lahat mayayaman. So, most likely, kung sino ang may maraming pera, siya din yung may maraming babayarin na tax. Liability po yan. Okay? So, just like, for example, Manny Pacquiao. Noong una, hindi rin ganun kalaki yung binabayad ni Manny Pacquiao nung papaumpisa pa lang siya sa boxing career niya. Pero ngayon, of course, sa dami na ng businesses na meron siya, sa mga activities na kinakandak out sa pagbo-boxing niya, may promotions na rin siya. So, meaning to say, malaki na yung binabayarang tax ni Manny Pacquiao and the Pacquiao family ngayon. Okay, yung mga Lopezes, Ayala. So sila ang nag-aambag ng malaki, yung mga mayayaman natin. And of course, hindi sila makakahindi kasi nasa batas po yan. So tayo naman, okay, yung andito sa middle class at saka sa tinatawag nating lower class, nababayad din tayo, indirect. And kung may trabaho ka, mayroon kang personal tax. Pag bumibili tayo ng mga bagay-bagay sa ating paligid para po sa ating consumption, so nagbabayad ka rin ng tax kahit papaano. Okay? Kasi andyan din rin po yan sa batas natin. Okay? So this function is widely accepted in most democracies, especially sa atin dito kasi nga demokrasiya naman ang meron tayo. Although the extent to which this should happen is always controversial. Depende na lang po kung anong mechanisms yung ginagamit po natin. Okay? Nung una guys, maraming umalma doon sa EVAT at saka VAT kasi nga it's the burden of the people. It's another burden for the people, I mean. Okay? Itong EVAT at saka VAT na ito. Pero wala tayong nagawa kasi nga naipasa na ng Kongreso yan. Naging batas na natin. So we have to abide. Pero kagandahan naman ito, napataas nito yung tinatawag nating revenue ng ating government. So if you can still recall, nasabi ko na last time sa inyo, bakit tayo nagkaroon ng EVAT at saka VAT? It's mainly because we were urged by the IMF or International Monetary Fund at saka World Bank na bayaran yung utang natin, yung interest sa utang natin. Kaya at saka yung other international financial institutions kung saan may utang tayo. So, ito yung dahilan kung bakit na-push ito at na-materialize itong tinatawag nating EVAT at saka VAT. Okay? So, nauna yung VAT and then we have extended value added tax na naman. Okay? So, 12% and 10% po yan sa mga binibili po natin. Pero if you're going to look at it, nakatulong siya pag ginastos na maayos ng mga leaders natin. Okay? Then, pangatlo sa 4 na R's, according kay Mr. Natad, ay itong tinatawag nating repricing. Okay? So, taxes are levied to address externalities. Okay? Tobacco is tax, for example. So, dito po mapasok po yung tinatawag nating sin tax. Kaya kung saan nabanggit na rin natin yan last time. Ano? And this is just what? To discourage smoking. Pero of course, likas sa tao na kapag gustong-gusto nila talaga kahit gaano yan kamahal, gaano yan ka hirap ma-achieve o ma-attain. So ginagawa nila ng paraan yan para gain lang ng access kay sa isang item na yon o isang commodity na yon. Okay? So ito ay may kagandahan din. Okay? Kasi nalilimit nito yung risk. Kasi may social cost din siya na tinatawag eh. nakakatulong ka nga sa ekonomiya ng bansa natin pero ikaw ay, for example, ikaw ay ah, nagbebenta ng sigarilyo at inumin. So may ill effects po ang dalawang ito. So yan yung mga sicknesses. Okay? At yun po yung isa sa mga social cost. Okay? Although meron siyang economic benefits, dahil nga nakakatulong ka nga sa revenue, pero yun yung isa sa mga tinitingnan din ng government natin. Kaya kung makita niyo sa mga sigarilyo ngayon, may mga nakalagay talaga dyan ng mga pictures. Pag ito ay hindi kontrabanda, so may makikita ka dyang mga nakatatak ng mga different sicknesses. Pero tuloy pa rin tayo sa pag hit-hit ng sigarilyo na yan. At of course, pag inom, kasi nga para sa iba, of course, nasa lifestyle na yan nila, nakasanayan na, at na-enjoy nila yung ginagawa nila. And you cannot do about it kasi hindi naman siya prohibited or totally banned. Only that, tinaasan lang yan siya para magkaroon tayo ng limitasyon. Kasi yung iba, hindi naman nakaka-afford na. So, malalasan na ngayon yung consumers nito. Pero as sinasabi ko nga kanina, pag ito ay gusto mo na produkto, ginagawan talaga ng paraan yan. Okay? So, ayan. So, we have also letter D, ito yung pang-apat, representation. So, yung balik tayo dito sa syntax. Kasi yung syntax dati, yung mga tinatawag nating tax sa tobacco at saka tobacco at saka mga beverages natin. Okay. Hindi ganun kataas, guys. Yung inumin last time, yung mga San Miguel beer na yung Pilsen, hindi yan ganun. Naalala ko pa noon na yung nanay ko at tatay ko, pinapabili ako niyan. Okay. So, hindi ganun siya kamahal. Unlike ngayon, yung isang case ng grande at saka yung umabot na sa 500 plus. Di ba? Noon, nasa lang yan yung mga time na kung saan nag-start pa lang ako uminom din. Nasa lang yan, 40 plus, and then later naging 60, ngayon 80. Yan. Yung iba nga, umaabot na nga lang mahigit 100 Okay. So, ayan. Yung sigarilyo naman dati, makakabili ka na ng 20 pesos, isang kaha. Okay. Ngayon, nasa 30, 40, may iba na 80. Depende po sa brand. Ayan. So, nagmahal na siya. So, ngayon, kung minimal yung kinikita mo, nalalasan ngayon yung consumption mo. At may kagandahan din yun, para din yan sa'yo. Di ba? Pero kung talagang fan ka na, kumbaga addict ka na, so, talagang gagawa mo yan ng paraan. Magka-cut ka talaga ng budget para lang doon. Okay? Now, proceed tayo dito sa number 4, yung representation. So, this is the fourth consequential effect of taxation in its historical setting has been what we call representation. Okay? So, sabi nga natin dito, the American Revolutionary slogan, no taxation without representation. So, implied that, this implied that rulers tax citizens. Totoo. And citizens demand accountability from their rulers as the other part of this bargain. Okay? So, kayo yung nakaupo dyan. Okay? So, bigay nyo rin yung due or just na mga programs, activities para sa amin. Kasi we were being taxed. Lahat naman ng may mga trabaho, mayroon talagang personal income unless hindi nagbabayad. Okay? So, ayan. Ang gumawa po ng ating tax law, guys, ay ang Congress natin. Okay? So, yung train law natin dito sa Pilipinas, it was passed by the members of the Congress. Then, Um, Pinirmahan po yan ni Pangulong Duterte. Kaya ngayon yung kumikita ng hindi ganun kalaki sa trabaho niya, so exempted siya from tax. Ako sa nakakatulong din siya, okay? Especially sa part ko. Hindi naman ganun kalaki yung sweldo natin dito. Okay? Minimum lang din yung sweldo natin. Okay? Kaya exempted ako sa tax. Okay? Pag umabot siya ng ah, 20 to 30, ayun, medyo kahit pa paano, kakonti na lang yung makukuha. Unlike noon talaga na malaki din yung binabayaran ko na tax kasi single. Okay? So, unlike na kung may mga dependents ka, okay, minimal. Okay? So, ayan. So, here are other important purposes of taxation. So, it increased in effectiveness and productivity of the nation. So, of course, this is talking about the whole development done by government, okay, out of its revenues or pondo. Okay? So, pag may pera yung government natin, nakagawa siya ng mga programs, projects, activities, okay, para sa kaunlad ng ating bansa. It also increased the quantum of revenue collection, okay, improvement in services of the government, improve employment at all industry verticals. Depende po kasi may iba naman na hindi priority ng government natin. Like, especially right now, yung nawawalalat ngayon sa atin dito ay yung agricultural natin, medyo okay pa naman. Yung may mga industries kasi na wala pa dito sa atin, hindi pa siya present. Especially yung mga sophisticated na mga gadgets or machineries na sana dito natin ginagawa. So wala pa yung iba dito. Okay? So may need pa talaga, especially yung paggawa ng automobiles. Okay? So ang ginagawa lang natin dito, yung mga parts lang. Okay? When I was still in Cebu, I used to work in a production firm before. And ang ginagawa namin ay harness o yung tinatawag nating nervous system ng mga cars, okay, o kaya ng mga malalaking sasakyan. So sa isang table niyan noon, 6 kami. So bawat table dapat magkaroon kayo ng 30 pieces na harness na matapos sa loob ng isang araw. Okay? So luckily nakagawa naman kami, and minsan umabot kami ng 45 kapag nasa kondisyon at sanay na. Kasi may mga measurements din yun eh. Yung mga airbag ng sasakyan sa airbag, yung mga buttons po na piniklik natin, like for example, yung sa Windows po natin. So, andyan po yan, present po yan sa mga ginagawa namin noon. Okay. And then, ang product na yon, meron kaming domestic at saka export. Okay. So, yung product namin, export yon. So, siguro sa isang harness, that would cost mga 30,000 siguro to 50,000. Okay? Depende po kung anong klase. So parang electrical wiring niyo po yun, yung ginagawa namin. Kaya siya tinatawag na nervous system ng sasakyan. Okay? Kasi kung wala yun, di gagana yung sasakyan mo. So, siguro sa isang harness, nakakabayad siya ng empleyado na 3 or 4. Eh, kasi yung kinikita namin doon last time, mas malaki pa yung kinikita ko doon eh. Kaysa sa dito. To tell you honestly. Okay? So, minsan nagkakaroon ako ng sweldo doon na 18,000, 20, kapag 6 to 6 yung duty. May overtime na 4 na oras. Okay? So, American company siya kasi. So, mas maganda. Okay? So actually may mga MEPS 1, MEPS 2 na tayo sa Metro Cebu. Okay? Mga economic zones po 'yan. Pag sinasabi natin MEPS 1, MEPS 2, MEPSA, MEPSA 2, MEPSA 1. Okay? Sa Manila, meron na yun. Okay? Then of course, induction of modern technology into the system. So kailangan pa natin mag-upgrade talaga. And if you're going to look at it sa pagdating po sa tinatawag nating farming, so last time, involved pa ako sa harvesting ng palay manually, di ba? Kasi nagsasaka ako noon. Okay? So nagtatanim din ako ng palay. Okay? Then nag-harvest din kami ng palay. So ngayon, unti-unti nawawala yung mga seasonal rice harvesters po natin. So napalitan na po siya ng machines. Okay? Kung makikita ninyo, may mga rotor na rin, may harvester na rin. Okay? So yan yung kagandahan. Kasi ah, nakarating na dito yung mga technologies na yan, modern technologies. Na kung saan makakatulong yan, kahit yung mga computers po natin. Almost all industries right now are using computers. Okay? Kahit sa production. Okay? So sa amin noon, may mga late machine kami, may mechanical machine when I was still in Cebu studying in a boys town school. Okay? So may late machine kami na ginagamit noon. Yung mga bolt na yan, mga nuts, so doon ginagawa sa late machine. And then kung medyo mga critical na, so andyan yung mechanical machine na kung saan i-input mo lang yung data doon, ilan yung sukat niya, ano yung haba, ano yung gano'ng kaliit. So pag napasok na yan doon sa mechanical machine na data, so kusang huhulma yun. Okay? Kung ano mang gusto mo. Okay? So yun yung mga machines na mayroon kami last time when I was still in Boys Town. Okay? Kasi noon guys, K-12 na yung system namin doon. Hindi pa dito nagkakaroon ng K-12 system sa Pilipinas. So yung school na yun, naka K-12 system na. Okay? Ang ano kasi noon is Korea. And then US ang mga benefactors niya. And of course, the rationalization of terms and conditions of the economic system. And the last one is rationalization of employment terms and conditions. Okay. So, sa time ni Duterte, yung tinatawag nating contractualism, isa yan sa mga pinagtuunan niya ng pansin. Pero of course, until now, may mga ano pa rin. Okay. So, may mga issues pa rin tayo. Pero nagagawa na rin yung paraan niya. And then yung economic system po natin. Okay? So, of course, nagkataon lamang na dumaan si COVID sa panunungkulan ni Duterte. Kasi kung wala, masigit na marami siguro siyang na pundar na mga infrastructures. Okay? Dito sa bansa po natin. Okay? So let's go now to the history of taxation. So ito po ay nagsimula sa Ehipto. We're not really certain. Pero sa Ehipto pala, mayroong pangolekta na ng buwis. Okay? Sa panahon ng mga Egyptian pharaohs. Okay? So ang tawag sa mga tax collectors po nila ay scribes. Okay? So during one period, the scribes imposed a tax on cooking oil na kung saan ito dapat yung gagamitin talaga ng bawat household. Okay, na kung saan nagkakaroon pa ng house-to-house na audit po kung gumagamit ba yung mga members ng households na yon ng cooking oil na gustong gamitin ng government, na ipagamit ng government sa kanila. So ganun ka higpit. Okay, ganun katindi yung pagmo-monitor noon. Okay? So sabi pa nga dito, to ensure that citizens were not avoiding the cooking oil tax scribes would audit households to ensure that appropriate amounts of cooking oil were consumed and that all citizens were not using leavings generated by cooking processes as substitute for the taxed oil. So, ganun katindi. So, ito dapat yung gamitin mo. Wag na yung ibang oil kasi wala yung tax. Ito lang. Ganun sila kahigpit doon. Okay? So, that was in Egypt. Now, let's go to Greece. So, in Athens, Athens is part of Greece. Nag-impose sila ng tinatawag nating spora. Okay? So, no one was exempt from the tax which was used to pay for special wartime expenditures. So, ito ay kinukuha nila guys sa mga tao, okay, during times of war. Okay? So, the Greeks are one of the few societies that were able to resent the tax once the emergency was over. So, when additional resources were gained by the war effort, okay, so the resources were used to refund the tax. So, ibabalik din sa inyo. Okay? Kung kayo ay nagbayad ng tax. So, pag maraming sila makukuha doon sa colonize sila na bansa o teritoryo. So, Athenians imposed also a monthly poll tax on foreigners. Okay? So, people who did not have both an Athenian mother or father, one drachma, okay, for men and 1 drachma for women. So, the tax is called mitoikon or mitoikuyon. Or Kion, I mean. Okay? So, yan. Sa mga foreigners po yan. And then, in Rome, part of Italy, so pumasok dyan sa eksena yung Roman Empire. Okay? So, this was the earliest taxes in Rome were customs duties on imports and exports na tinatawag nilang portoria. Okay. So, parang ngayon, tawag natin dyan taripa. Okay, sa kanila noon, Portoria. So during the reign of Caesar Augustus, Caesar means leader. Okay, sa Russia, tinatawag nilang Tsar. Okay. So Augustus Caesar, considered by many to be the most brilliant tax strategies of the Roman Empire. Siya din po yung hari nila o yung leader nila na kung saan na-meet nila yung tinatawag nating Golden Age ng Holy Roman Empire. So during his reign as a first citizen, the publicani were virtually eliminated as tax collectors for the central government. So during this period, cities were given the responsibility for collecting taxes. Okay, so nawala po yung lakas ng central government. Kundi, ang meron sila is yung mga tao na andyan sa syudad o yung mga namamahala sa syudad na mismo yung nangongolekta. So Caesar Augustus instituted an inheritance tax to provide retirement funds for the military. So yan yung main purpose niya kung bakit nagkaroon siya ng inheritance tax. Okay? Doon sa Roma noon. So the tax was 5% of all inheritances except gifts to children and spouses. So during the time of Julius Caesar, 1% sale tax was also imposed. Okay? So, iba naman ito. Okay, sa sale tax naman. So, during the time during the time of Augustus Caesar, the sale tax, okay, was 4% for slaves. So, medyo mataas. And 1% for everything else. So, mas mataas yung binabayaran ng mga slaves noon. So, Saint Matthew was a publican, okay, a tax collector from Capernaum during Caesar Augustus' reign. So he was not of the old publicani but hired by the local governments to collect taxes. So dito po siya na-fall sa mga city. Okay? So Saint Matthew was also one of the apostles of Christ. Okay? So siya po ay isang tax collector. Na kung saan si Jesus din mismo ang sa kanya, nag-invite. Okay? So, ayan. So, sa Pilipinas, ito po yung mayroon tayo. Okay. So, we have the so-called tribute in cedula. So ang tribute po ay buwis. Okay? Na pwedeng bayaran in any kind. So ang rate po noon, ang fixed rate po noon ay 8 reales. At later, naging 15 reales na ito. Okay, yan po yung pera that time during the Spanish period. Okay? So 10 reales goes to the government. So hatiin natin itong 15 ha. 1 to the town community chest and 3 to the church. Okay, so may pondo, may party pala yung church dito during the time. Another one was for the titis or the dismo prediales. So yan po yung kabuuan ng 15 reales na yon. So also collected is the bandala during the time. So this is an annual enforced sale and requisitioning of goods such as rice. So yan naman yung kinokolekta, bandala. So when it comes to custom duties and income tax, meron din silang kinokolekta po noon. So later, the imposed cedula, personal or personal identity paper wherein all Indians are required to pay for personal identification. Kung saan ito nga, of course, alam natin na sa panahon nila Bonifacio, pinunit na nila ito sa cry of rebellion. Kasi ito ay nangangulugan na pagka ikaw ay may sedula, ikaw ay under sa pamamahalang Kastila. So ayaw nila, so kaya pinunit. So Indians from age to 18 and 60 are obliged to pay this what we call sedula. Ngayon, meron din tayo niyan. So ang tawag natin ngayon ay personal income tax. Tama ba? Parang hindi ata, no? Community tax. Tama, community tax. Ayun siya. So andun pala. Okay? So ayan. So mayroon din noon forced labor o yung polo. Okay? Is serbisyo. So kung hindi ka magbabayad ng buwis mo, ito yung kahinatnan mo. So polo is the forced labor for 40 days of men ranging from 18 to 20 years of age who were obligated to give personal service to community projects. So ang uso noon yung paggawaan talaga ng barko. Okay, doon ka magre-render ng service mo. So one could be exempted from polo by paying the falya. So kung ayaw magtrabaho doon, okay, so magbayad ka ng falya, half real po yan. 1 and 1/2 real pala. Okay, daily. So i-times mo yan sa 40 days. So yun yung halaga ng kabuuan kung ayaw mo talaga mag-render ng service mo for this what we call polo. So ganun katindi yung dininanas ng mga ninuno natin. So in 1884, it was reduced to 15 days na lang. So mas maganda. 1884. So from 40 days, naging 15 days. So ayun. So take note ha, 1 and 1/2 reales bawat araw yung binabayad noon. So kung wala kang trabaho that time, nako, napakalaki ng mawawala sa iyo. Okay? So sa Pilipinas, meron din tayong tinatawag na encomienda system. Okay? So ang encomienda system is a land management system similar to feudal system in Europe. Okay, na kung saan nabibigyan po ng mga ng hari ng Espanya yung mga conquerors niya, okay, ng lupa out doon sa na sakop nila, okay, na area. Okay? So ayan. Aliyah, tatapusin ko na lang ito, Aliyah ha. Gagawa lang ako ng video ninyo para doon na lang kayo ano.
Sige po, sir.
Okay, so this is just for the
I-post mo na lang,
discussion.
sir.
Oo, i-post ko na lang doon.
Sige po, sir. Thank you.
Sige po. So ayan. So Yun yung tinatawag yung tawag natin sa mga tao na yun na binigyan ng pagkakataon na magkaroon ng control over a piece of land ay mga encomendero. Yung mga encomenderos. Okay? So the encomendero is duty bound to defend his encomenda and keep peace and order there. So in return, he was granted the right to collect tribute according to the limit. So part of this tribute goes to the encomendero and the rest to the church and government. So this is subject, however, to several abuses, of course. So alam na natin na isa ito sa mga talagang kinagagalit noon ng mga Pilipino. Kasi masyadong abusive yung mga encomendero. Okay? So, ang iba dito guys, mga Pilipino mga Pilipino na rin. Okay? Later on, nagkaroon sila ng chance na magkaroon din. Okay? And most likely, yung nauna sa kanila ay talagang full-blooded Spaniards talaga. Okay? Na kung saan part nito ay mapupunta sa kanila, yung tribute na yun, and then sa church at saka sa government. And then pumasok sa eksena yung tinatawag nating galleon trade. Okay, Manila, Kapolgo, galleon trade. Ito yung simula ng pagdurusa din ng mga maraming Pilipino na kung saan nagre-render po sila ng annual polo e-serbisyo. Okay? So the Manila Kapolgo trade is generally a trade between the Chinese and the Spaniards in Manila and the Spaniards in Mexico. So this has resulted into economic progress, of course, not only to them, but also to us. But the negative effects of it far outbalance the advantages kasi mas marami silang benepisyo na nakuha dito. So some income producing economies were completely neglected and too much burden were given to Filipinos during their annual polo e-serbisyo. So tayo naman yung kawawa kasi tayong gumagawa ng mga barko na yon and then silang gagamit. Okay? Kasi alipin tayo. Okay? Nila. Okay? PJ, pwede ka lang lumabas kasi ipopost ko na lang ito mamaya. Okay? Tatapusin ko lang yung discussion. And dito na lumabas din yung tinatawag nating evolution ng community tax. Okay? Pumasok na rin sa eksena yung tinatawag nating community tax dito. So the residence tax and in turn, the cedula were abolished with the coming of the American rule. Okay, na kung saan sabi dito, no such tax would be imposed. So, maganda, di ba? Pero hindi yan nagtagal. Okay? Nawala nga yung cedula, nawala nga yung residence tax during the American period sa first year and second year po nila. Okay? Pero noong January 1, 1940, through the Commonwealth Act number 465, okay, na kung saan when it went into effect, it mandated the imposition of a base resident tax of 50 centavos. Nako, 50 cents. And additional tax of 1 peso based on factors such as income and real estate holdings. So may property tax na yan, may income tax na rin. So the payment of this tax would merit the issue of residence certificate. Yan naman yung kagandahan. However, persons who are ineligible to pay the residence tax may be issued a certificate for 20 centavos. So pwede ka rin magkaroon ng certificate ngayon, pero magbabayad ka ng 20 centavos. So corporations were also subject to residence tax before, during the American era. So Philippine independence, nagkaroon tayo ng pero same provisions were kept in effect. Until such time na nagkaroon tayo ng transition na and nagkaroon tayo ng changes kasi ang ginagamit nating constitution noon ay 1943. And then later nagkaroon pa tayo ng 1973 na constitution na kung saan naamyendahan po dito yung tinatawag nating local tax code natin. So with amendments on the allocation of the residence tax and on who are covered under it, as well as payment provisions ang andito. So local tax code were later subsumed into the local government code of 1991. So ito na po yung ginagamit natin until now. Okay? So sa kasalukuyan, ito po yung mayroon tayo, yung resident tax and resident certificates. O ito ay may pangalan na ngayon na current community tax and community tax certificate. Yung residence certificate, yan ang yung tinatawag nating community tax certificate. Okay. So, yan. And then, of course, nagkaroon na tayo ng tax law dito, okay, sa Pilipinas. So, it covers the national and local taxes, of course. So, yung national taxes natin refer to national internal revenue taxes imposed and collected by the national government through the Bureau of Internal Revenue. And of course, kasama na rin dyan yung tinatawag po nating Bureau of Customs. Okay? And yung local taxes po natin refer to those imposed and collected by the local government units na kung saan later on, ipapas din yan sa ating National Treasury. So dito po mapasok yung tinatawag nating Bureau of Department of Finance. We have the DBM, Department of Budget and Management. Okay? So ayan. So when it comes to our national tax laws, under sa ating pong saligang batas, 1987 Philippine Constitution po yan, it sets the limitations on the exercise of power to tax. So the rule of taxation shall be uniform and equitable. So sabi dito sa Article 7, Section 28, Paragraph 1, the rule of taxation shall be uniform and equitable. Congress shall evolve a progressive tax system. Okay? Kasi meron tayong tatlong uri ng tax system. Okay? So may tatlong uri po yan. Later on, babanggitin din natin yung tatlo na yan. Okay? So yung isa dyan, proportional. Progressive, yung isa ay, nakalimutan ko yung isa. Proportional, progressive, at saka regressive. Ayun, regressive. Mamaya pag-uusapan din natin yan. Okay. So all money collected on any tax levied for a special purpose shall be treated as a special fund and paid out for such purpose only. So if the purpose for which a special fund was created has been fulfilled or abandoned, the balance, if any, shall be transferred to the general fund of the government. So yan nga po yung nangyayari. So for example, may allocated budget ka amounting to 1 million, and then at the end of the one calendar year, okay, hindi mo siya na-disburse, hindi mo siya naubos lahat. So yung pondo na natira dyan, kung meron man, ibabalik po yan sa general funds ng government po natin. That is under Article 7, Section 29, kay Paragraph 3 po. Okay? Ayan. So to continue with, sinasabi dito that the Congress may, by law, authorize the President to fix within specified limits and subject to such limitation and restriction as it may impose. So tariffs, rates, imports and export quotas, tonnage and wharfage dues, and of course other duties or imposed within the framework of the National Development Program of the government. So si President, mayroon siyang kapangyarihan dito when it comes to all of this. That is under Article 6, Section 28, Paragraph 2. So the President shall have the power to veto. May kapangyarihan din po siya mag-veto, mag-deny, mag-forbid, okay? Reject, okay? Any particular item or items in an appropriation, revenue, or tariff bills. But the veto shall not affect the item or items to which he does not object. Okay, that is under Article 6, Section 27, second paragraph po yan. So, ang nangyayari kasi, of course, sa paggawa po ng national budget natin, bawat departamento, magkakaroon sila ng tinatawag nating proposed budget. Okay? Isasalang yan nila ngayon sa Kongreso, okay? Sa Committee on Finance. Okay? Then, i-scrutinize po yan at i-double check kung mayroon bang mga tinatawag nating pondo na doble. Okay? Kasi minsan may mga tinatawag tayong ano nga ang term yung ginagamit nila? Nakalimutan ko. Parang ganito kasi yung setup minsan. Andun na siya present sa isa pero nilagay pa nila yung another one for that for the same project. Kalimutan ko yung term, guys. Sige, later on, kung maano, ibabanggitin ko na lang sa inyo sa next discussion natin. Nakalimutan ko talaga. Hindi ko maisip, hindi ko ma-retrieve ngayon. Okay, hindi ko talaga ma-retrieve. So, baka maubos yung oras natin. Okay. Pero yun ha, may kapangyarihan yung president natin na once maipasa na yung tinatawag nating panukalang budget na yan by the Congress. So si President naman ngayon ang may kapangyarihan din na ipasa yon o i-veto yon. Particularly yung mga pondo nila. So say for example, Human Rights Office. Oh, 'di ba? Sabi niya noon 1,000 lang. Kasi galit na galit siya. Kaya sinupalpal kasi siya eh. Okay? So, pero hindi naman ganoon yung pondo ng Human Rights Commission. Okay? So, malaki din pondo nila, I think. Okay? Hindi naman 1,000. Bluff lang siguro. Okay? Riding bill ba yan? Ano ba yan? Para mga rider pala yung term na gusto ko i-recall kanina. Rider. Okay, yan yung tawag natin. Sa mga pondong parang gusto nilang doblehin. O mayroon na pero gusto pa nilang dagdagan. Parang kung hindi mo masilip, kung hindi mo siya makita, okay? So, lulusot siya, meaning kasi may tendency sila na makamkam yun, yung pera na yun, yung budget na yan. Mga rider, okay? Good. So the Supreme Court shall have the power to review, revise, reverse, modify, or affirm on appeal or certiorari as the law or the rules of court may provide the final judgment and orders of lower courts in all cases involving the legality of any tax. Okay? Impose assessment in tool or any penalty imposed in relation thereto. So kung may nakita na hindi maganda, hindi kanais-nais, so pwede naman mag-review. Okay? Mag-revise, mag-reverse, mag-modify, and mag-affirm yung Supreme Court po natin. On appeal on appeal or certiorari. Okay? So ayan. So of course, certiorari is one of the writs. Okay, one of the writs. Okay. Mayroon tayo. Aside from habeas corpus, aside from so yan yung habeas data. Okay, may certiorari din tayo na writs. Okay. So the laws governing taxation in the Philippines are contained within the National Internal Revenue Code. Okay, NIRC natin. So this code underwent substantial revision with the passage of the Tax Reform Act of 1997. And this law took effect on January 1, 1998. So yun po yung TRA natin of 1997. So taxation is administered through the Bureau of Internal Revenue, which comes under the Department of Finance. Okay, so ang DOF po natin, meron po siyang bureau, BIR. Okay, so the Chief Executive of the Bureau of Internal Revenue is the Commissioner who has exclusive and original jurisdiction to interpret the provision of the code and other tax laws. So the commissioner also has the powers to decide disputed assessments, grant refunds of taxes, fees, and other charges and penalties. She can also modify payments on an internal revenue tax and abate or cancel a tax liability. So yan po yung kapangyarihan na meron siya. So a taxpayer can appeal decisions by the commissioner directly to the Court of Tax Appeals. So yung Court of Tax Appeals po natin, yan po ay special court. Okay? So Sandigan Bayan is also a special court. At saka yung ano po natin, Sharia. Okay? So yan po yung mga special courts po natin sa Pilipinas. Okay? So kung may problema ka, okay, pwede ka dito mag-appeal sa Court of Tax Appeals. Kung makalusot ka doon, okay. Pag hindi, bayad ka. Okay? So yun po yung national tax system po natin. Okay? So ayan. So puputulin ko na lang muna yung discussion dito and then later on, dadagdagan ko ito for our part 2. Okay, kasi may pasok pa po ako. So mamaya, tatapusin natin to. Okay, so maraming salamat po ulit sa inyong pakikinig o panonood.